very confident in his Pyromancer list. I'm a huge fan of that deck, and I'm excited to see how it works out for him today.
Well, I'm not surprised you're a huge fan of that deck. I mean, you did break the news of that deck on your column a million years ago with the building with a budget column. But these days it looks like it's gone beyond just being thought of as something that would be used casually into a deck that could be a real threat. Though I think recently it's kind of lost favor in a lot of ways because perhaps the ascendancy of black-blue or perhaps, some other reasons. But in any case, a lot of people kind of view Pyromancer's Ascension as on the wane these days.
That's a good point. I was a big fan of Pyromancer's Ascension when I first revealed the deck, when Call to Mind was printed, and a large part of that was the fact that I could play 4 Spreading Seas alongside 4 Ponder and 4 Preordain, and so many people were playing Jund at the time, which is no longer a legal deck in Standard, that I could conceivably chain into multiple Spreading Seas in the early turns of the game, and then block Maelstrom Pulses and be able to play my Ascension and get it active all at once. So.
Okay, so it looks like we have the match just beginning now.
It's a very aggressive island from Michael.
Yep. Michael did win the die roll, and he is going to be going out with a mountain and an island versus the Jiraga Tree Speaker, which immediately is activated and killed. I love Tree Speaker, but I mean, that investment time can always be a real killer. Yeah. You're very right, though. Those are some aggressive lands. They're ready to go. They're ready to take care of some business.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to be playing any creatures, so he doesn't mind getting those lands in the red zone. That shows he's just closer to casting cards like 4C.
Okay, so he does finally have a Ascension in his hand now.
He's probably just going to cast a 4C and pass. Oh, he doesn't.
He doesn't have the land.
He doesn't have the land. Interesting.
So, I didn't see any counter magic. Oh, there is one mana leak there. Okay, now I do see it.
Yeah, he is chock full of burn though, so.
Okay.
Logan's going to start powering out a lot of mana with those overgrown battlements.
I don't know about not countering that right there. I think that might have been a good card to counter. That's a 3 mana acceleration.
Yeah, it's a little odd that he didn't counter that there.
I mean, now it could be that he can't counter some of the other minor ramp spells, and pretty quickly he's not going to be able to counter anything.
Yeah, the mana leak gets dead very quickly when you have that many overgrown battlements.
Now, it could just be that his opponent will just raw dog for a Primeval Titan right here, and then it'll just be stopped. I mean, and then, yeah, unless he's got another one, I'm not sure if I like that play. I would probably play slower on the Primevals. His opponent's...
I don't know. I think, if your opponent doesn't counter that battlement, I can't imagine not playing the Primeval Titan the next turn, especially when my opponent's not playing.
Take backsies on the lands there.
Oh, and there's a nice Summoner's Trap. So now it looks like a Tree Speaker is the best thing that those 7 cards had to offer. Oh, that must have not been a Tree Speaker.
Yeah, I thought I saw a Tree Speaker. I guess we were wrong.
It's interesting here that the one player's last name is Wolf, and the other player is an actual wolf.
It's true. It's true. You look at him, and you can, you've got to make sure your hand isn't too close because he'll bite it.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
He has improved critical.
Here we go. A Preordain, basically looking for land.
He found one, so.
Yeah, and one of the things that I have to say I don't like about Summoning Trap in these lists, just in general, is that a lot of them just don't run very many creatures. They whiff a lot. I mean, it's not like a whiff, it's not as much as 50% of the time, but it's a good 25% of the time, maybe a little bit more than that.
I'm interested to see why Michael chose to... oh, he has Mana Leak. Okay.
Okay, is that an Ulamog that we saw there in his hand?
It is, in fact, an Ulamog. He has access to 8 mana right now.
8 mana? There's 6 right now. There we go. So interestingly, though, if he had countered this overgrown battlements, he actually wouldn't even have any threats hitting him yet.
Yeah, there would have been nothing happening. Again, though, he doesn't know that.
This is true.
So.
This is true. Okay, so the real question here is 4C. Yep, there we go, versus Pyromancer's Ascension. I'm glad he went with the 4C there.
It's just a much better use of your mana.
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't have another 4C in his yard yet, so putting down the Ascension sooner might feel a little nice, but it doesn't necessarily get you anywhere. Is that a Deprive? Deprive is kind of spicy.
Yeah, Deprive is very strong. In our testing last night, we were really impressed by it. I'm somewhat surprised that he decided to keep the Bolt there. I don't know how much value it has without a second red source. Once he gets
Call to
3 red in
mind.
play, he could
Deprive and a
deal
Bolt.
with both battlements.
So unless something really bad happens right now,
Eldrazi Temple would be really bad. And so would a Terastodon.
is that a Terastodon?
It is.
Okay, folks.
Dumbo's on the march.
Un, deux, trois.
That's probably enough.
Okay, so the paths out of this basically are what? Top deck a land, lay Pyromancer's Ascension, and then just keep bolting to the face and hoping that you get there? Or, you know, because I don't think you're going to be able to beat what you've got going on the other side if anything at all happens from his opponent, period.
Yeah, I think the correct line of play right here would just be to... I might just pass.
Tell me why you would have passed, potentially.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is that if I just pass...
Mountain? Oh, never mind.
Then my opponent will probably attack me with the Terastodon. I'm kind of trusting that he doesn't draw land, because if he does, then kind of just out of it if he starts ripping spells. Or I guess he has the Chalices in his deck too. I feel like the only way to win is to be able to attack with those 3/3s and surprise him with the amount of burn in your hand. I might have even slow rolled the second land.
I mean, the walls can maybe make that difficult too, though.
That's true. But I mean, he's going to be tapping them for spells.
Like, my basic thought is, if he taps them for any reasonable spell, the match is over.
It's true. At this point, I think Mike is just out of the game.
Oh, he's most likely out of the game, you know, but looking for that path, looking for that one way through. And he's got 2 Saprolings.
Avenger can make those very dangerous very
Growth Spasm.
quickly.
And we've got Logan Wolf with the appropriate tokens every time.
The man is prepared.
Yep. So, I mean, it's pretty likely that this match, or not match, pardon me, that this game has basically ended with that Terastodon. And if we think about where they're going to go from the board, you know, like, we're probably going to see flash freezes from the Ascension deck. And then from the other deck, are they just, what is their plan going to be against an Ascension deck? Because I'm not sure if Ascension is probably directly in their radar right now. They're going to have anti-counterspell things, perhaps, but...
As a rule, if you're only playing green, you don't have access to that much in your board. Like, you don't really want that many cards against red or other things like that. You'll weaken your deck too much, you'll dilute it. So you end up with these kind of random niche cards, like Nature's Claim.
Mm-hmm.
So those I can see coming indefinitely, and that might be a real problem for Michael.
Nature's Claim, maybe Acidic Slime.
Yeah, an Acidic Slime. Or 4.
Yeah, or 4 Acidic Slime. I mean, if anything, this is a deck that chokes on mana. It really, really needs access to a good amount of mana. And Ulamog comes down now, if I don't miss my guess.
In Ulamog hitting that island will probably put Michael in a spot where he's ready to scoop.
6, 8,
9,
10,
11, 12.
12. Uh-oh,
7,
what costs
8, 9,
12?
10, 11, 12.
And we go on to our exciting game 2. So, For those of you who don't know how Michael Pozsgay did at the last Invitational, he finished 9th place, just missing top 8. He played Black-Red Vampires for that event, so shifting over to Pyromancer's Ascension, that's a big change. And he is actually someone that generally likes burn spells. He did pretty well with a Temple Bell burn deck during the end of one of the last standards, top 8ing at a PTQ. I mean, he does like burn spells, so this deck does let him play burn spells, but it isn't exactly along the lines of a Temple Bell Goblin Guide burn deck or a Vampires deck. This is a kind of a big change from my perspective on what he's playing.
The Pyromancer Ascension deck requires you to play very conservatively, if my memory serves me correctly. I mean, unless you're playing against a deck like Green and it's game 1, in which case you're supposed to play a very aggressive game because you're basically fishbowling them. There were a few turns where he could have just laid the Ascension, and he chose to leave open counterman and then not counter a battlement, which was pretty surprising to me. So maybe we're seeing some inexperience as far as combo play goes from Michael, but I think Michael's very confident in his deck choice, and he's happy with what he chose to play. He last night was gushing about how fun the deck is to play. And
it's funny because I like a lot of decks. In my experience, for me, I get the most fun when my opponent gets demoralized, and so there's a demoralizing factor with this kind of deck with Pyromancer's Ascension, but I've just never found it fun, you know? Like, I think that, like, I like to either be a little bit more controlling than that and go, like, kind of a Jerry Thompson style, like, when he's in his comfort zone, he's in, like, the most controlling space, or something that's really aggressive. And this is kind of like a weird dance between those because of the way it, like, kind of slips into going aggressive, almost like it's a fairies deck.
it's one of those middle-of-the-road combo decks that, is a control deck that pretends to be a combo deck.
I've actually
Wargate decks.
Yeah.
Extended.
I've actually long believed that combo isn't a real archetype, but they're just different versions of aggro or control. But right now, we see the flash freezes. It looks like he brought in, unless he's maining Jace, maybe he brought in Jace?
He has 2 Jaces in his main deck.
Okay. What else? I don't remember Jace being particularly common in Pyromancer's Ascension. Is that a new addition for him? Or, I mean, no, I've seen it around, but I haven't seen it as something that's typical.
It's not a normal card to see there. I used to swap my 4Cs for Jaces in a lot of matchups. I liked, countering my opponent's good 4-drop and then playing a Jace in control matchups. People would not see it coming, and it would put them in a really bad spot. They'd be forced to tap out and deal with the Jace, which would give me an opportunity to combo off, and you get a brainstorm out of it. So. Right.
Well, this is Adrian Sullivan with Star City Games Live, SCG Live, bringing you coverage of the Kansas City Standard Open Series. I'm here with Jacob Van Lunen, and this is the second round of the Standard Tournament. And we have on our left Logan Wolf, who is playing Mono Green Eldrazi, versus on the right Michael Pozsgay, who is playing Pyromancer's Ascension. And right now, Logan Wolf did take the first game, and we've got the slow wait for sideboarding and shuffling to end.
So, Adrian, have you seen the new Grey Ogres from Mirrored and Besieged?
All right, when did they go? When did they go on to the spoilers?
A few weeks ago. It was there's a black one that's 1 BB for a 2/2 infect with protection from red and white.
I can't believe you called those guys Grey Ogres.
Oh, well, I mean, they're a lot more impressive than Grey Ogres. I just meant that they were 3 casting cost 2/2s.
See, I don't know. I might have called them something a little bit more impressive.
Paladin and Vex.
Yeah, I might have called them New Paladin and Vex.
That's fair.
That guy made a splash back in the day. Yeah, I think it kind of is one of those things where, Paladin and Vex in its day was really pretty powerful and pretty good. And it's sort of like, I'm just going to make a really terrible analogy, like this really popular guy at, some high school or whatever, and his dad owns the car dealership. And then, into town comes the guy who's like, Dad, it's a billionaire. It's pretty much the same feel. Double strike versus first strike is ridiculous, and
Yeah, I would trade that green for red, though. That if you could have a bubble around you that protected you from, like trees, or you could have a bubble around you that protected you from like fire, I feel like one might be a little more impressive than the other. Pro red, pro white though is about as good as protection from colors gets.
Pro red, pro white. Like, what do you? I guess you can bounce it. It's a black creature too for the other one, right? So like,
yeah, it's pretty tough. Like,
you
can't be
tear it, or Doomblade, yeah.
Like, you can't terminate it. You can't. I really don't know how you kill it. So it's interesting. Like, are there enough infect cards in this new set to make that a viable strategy?
I think.
And is that guy good enough by himself? Like, could you just play that guy and then could he be a win condition? Because he's virtually unkillable.
I think it's on the verge of being a really good deck. I mean, I already think that the mono green poison deck is on that verge, but like, it's just below. It's just below the line you need to get to.
Yeah, Zach Hill at the last Grand Prix, I was talking to him, and he was gunslinging, and he said his deck with the most winning record was his mono green poison deck. He was beating everything. So
maybe we just haven't broken it yet. The far future leaguers, they got it figured out, and we're just still waiting to figure out that little slip of technology that we don't have.
Perhaps.
Okay,
it's a big secret.
It's a big secret. Who killed JFK? And how do you make the poison deck? And we got to start again. Once again, a turn 1 island from Michael Pozsgay. And it's a repeat of the last game so far.
See beyond. It's always so frustrating when you don't have a mountain and your opponent plays a turn 1 tree speaker. It's going to die next turn, but
sometimes I'll fake out the mountain, just put it out there and hope that they don't pump it up because they're afraid it'll be a wasted effort, and then just hope to delay it.
They almost never will, right?
Maybe about 15-20% of the time, they're like, you must have it. I'll do something else. But usually, 100% of the time. Usually they don't. Usually they're just like, show me.
So one thing that's pretty exciting is we're giving away a free month of premium to one random viewer every Swiss round over the chat. The quarterfinals is going to award 3 free months, and the semifinals is going to award 6 free months. So if you're looking to get some Star City Premium and you haven't purchased it yet, then if you watch the coverage all weekend, you might be lucky enough to get some free premium.
One of the things I've always just really loved about let's pretend that you're somebody that only has, you're really picky about your articles. Honestly, just even a couple that do you any good, it's just such a good deal, period, that it's just worth it. If only because, sometimes you'll have somebody that'll drop some information and you'll be like, wow, thanks, I appreciated that. And, right now we just had Michael Flores come back, and, love him or hate him, he's one of those people that gives out a lot, Okay. Pyromancer's Ascension facing down a little bit of mana.
It's more than a little bit of mana. He can untap and
drop 6.
Drop a Primeval Titan.
He doesn't have it. Uh-oh.
The nice thing about premium is, even in addition to just being on the top of strategies, it's nice just having something to read. I spend more than that every month on, books and things like that.
Books?
having access to that much reading material is nice. Catch up on your smartphone, bus, train.
Okay, so now
I'll sharpen up.
6, 10. He's threatening potentially 11 mana next turn. Is that an Eldrazi Temple? He has 11 Eldrazi mana right now.
Yeah, he could be he could be Ulamogging next turn. It's pretty dangerous. But Michael's in a pretty good spot here.
Preordained number 2.
It's a counter on the Ascension. Things are looking up.
He's got a Flash Freeze in his hand.
And a mana leak. And it's funny, like, having access to 11 mana or 10 non-Eldrazi mana may seem like it makes your mana leak dead, but against a deck that's trying to cast cards like Ulamog, the mana leak is still live. It's also relevant with the Ascension. He can find a land, play another 1-drop like Ponder effect, and put a second counter on the Ascension, and then when his opponent casts a spell, he can play the mana leak and copy it, and his opponent would have to play 6. So then he can still counter Primeval Titans with the mana leak.
Passes the turn with the 4th mana. He didn't have the Primeval Titan last turn, so... And he's basically just looking for a bomb to find.
What is it gonna be? I'm so
Was that
excited.
an Eye of Ujin in his hand?
Well, that's a lot of mana. That is.
I think Michael has to let this just resolve, because there's so
Yeah.
much more mana hanging out.
I mean, he may be afraid that his mana leak is going to end up being dead, but
Now, right now, next turn, he's got access to the big boy.
yeah.
That's Emrakul
The
mana right
Eons
there.
will be torn to shreds.
That is...
Flying Spaghetti Monster
the
and all of
thing.
its worshippers will be very happy when it starts annihilating for 6.
I've always thought of him as kind of a Cthulhu figure.
I've always thought of him as more of like a gentle and giving entity, you know? I've been touched by his new lead privilege. I think we all have. Yeah. Michael can't be too happy with the state of the game right now. His opponent's about to drop that Emrakul into play, and he can't say anything about it.
Yeah, I don't see a Mindbreak trap.
He has Mindbreak traps in his sideboard, so he may have one that we don't see, which would be extremely exciting.
I'm looking. I don't think I see it.
I'd also like to point out how beautiful Michael's deck is. Those are all beta lands. Every card in the deck is foil, foreign, you know, it's... That may be a Mindbreak trap. That would be very exciting if he had it.
Yep. All she wrote. You know, I might have scooped the moment he searched for it.
Yeah, I mean, what is he going to do? Untap and be like, huh, maybe next time.
Okay, so that's a 2-0 victory for Logan Wolf over Michael Pozsgay. And both of those decks aren't decks that I really have seen very much of lately. I haven't seen particularly much of the mono-green Eldrazi decks, and I certainly haven't seen much of Pyromancer's Ascension lately. You know, clearly, I know Michael spends a lot of time trying to prepare the deck that he thinks is going to be really the right choice. He doesn't just pick a deck at random. So there had to be something there, and I don't know Logan Wolf,